everybody.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's so cool, that we have people from all over the world competing, different time zones and stuff.
Yeah, and I actually really liked having the heats and having different, basically phases that we're going through
That's right.
to do all these. So
yeah, I've heard some very positive comments about that, and some people saying 10 hours is perfect timing because then you don't feel exhausted, but you've got enough time to really dig in and get in the zone and do stuff, but then you can relax until the next event comes along, sort of thing. So that's
exactly.
good.
Yeah,
that's good. So it is 8 o'clock. So those who are in Heat 3, you can start your date diving right now if you want, or you can wait for a couple minutes as we go through our live cast. But Heat 1 is already done, right? They've been sleeping for 2 hours now.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully. That's right. That's good. And Heat 2, you're 3/4 there. Just 2 more hours left, and then you'll be done your shift. So thank you for keeping things going in the middle of the thon. The Heat 2 is the smallest group, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
It's funny because we had a lot of many of our Aussies and Kiwi friends, of course, were joined Heat 1, but we had a surprising number of North Americans who also joined Heat 1 because they're night owls, and I thought, that 8 p.m.
I thought that was really interesting too. Yeah,
that was wild. So, yeah.
So Greg, how many people have participated so far?
Okay, well, let me see. I can't tell you a lot of stats. Oh, but I'm dying to, because there's some really cool numbers in the stats. I can see them, but I can't tell you them. But what I can tell you is that, 2 more. As of this moment in time, we've had 40 WikiTreeers have started competing in the date diving and have at least one date added to a profile. So that's good. And overall, we have 759 profiles have been approved, dates added. So that's
exciting.
Good. I think this is of the 4 events, I think this is the one that's going to be the hardest.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Because if you don't know where to look for a date, it could be anywhere, right?
Yeah.
So we should clarify. In my post yesterday, and I said no dates in all caps. And we talked about this when we did the kickoff last night, but for those who weren't here, it says no dates in all caps. But if you go to one of the suggestions and it says there's no dates, and you click on it, you open up a profile and you see, but there's a marriage date there.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. As long as you add a new birth date or death date to the profile, then when you're done and you save it, click on the challenge tracker, you can count that for this event. Because the suggestions are generated by the lack of a birth date or a death date in those fields on an individual profile. The suggestions don't do relationship things, or at least not all of them do. And so these ones don't, because that's just a lot more complex to program and stuff. And so as long as you add a birth date or a death date, even if there is a marriage date that exists, that still count. You can still count that as a point for this one.
Yeah. And I just want to, I'll share my screen real quick. So good. On the date diving section of the WikiGames space page, we have in there, if you are estimating a date, please be sure to use the estimated date template at the top of the profile. And there's a link from this page to that page. And also in the research notes section, which you might have to create a research notes section, add an explanation of how you're arriving at that estimated date, so that anybody who comes after you to that profile then can see the reasoning behind it and take that into consideration. So just check out that WikiGames space page. Of course, all the links for the event are linked in the description of this video below, so that you can get to them easily. So the other thing I wanted to share was, we were chatting just a little bit about before we got started here. So on the Friday date night page that's linked from the WikiGames page, you can go to the stats section of Friday date night if you're interested to see
More numbers.
how many do on average. Check that out. It's really interesting. If you like numbers, you'll like that. And of course, don't forget we have the G2G post out there and up pinned in the questions on G2G that if you have any date diving questions, please ask there. The team captains have been wonderful about checking this post and reaching out to the people who are leaving questions there. So that's great. Thank you, captains. We really appreciate you. And then I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but there have been some WikiGames selfies added.
Ooh, good.
Post. Yeah. We've got Jody Rogers. She's a magnificent Magnolia. Go Magnolias. That's my team. And we have Judith Fry, and she's a charming chestnut.
Uh-huh.
And there's Judy Bramlage. She's with the Fantastic Fur. She's one of the captains.
Nice.
And here is Vicky with her conifer, a native.
Oh, look at that.
Isn't that cool? A young Caria, a native Chilean conifer. So
nice.
she's the team captain of that team.
Yes.
And then we have Mel Hayward with her cat, and she's with the popular poplars.
Ah, nice.
I love seeing everybody's smiling faces there. So thank you everybody for posting. Mm-hmm. And if you haven't already, please do so. We love seeing you. All right.
There was a question in there about if a profile already has a birth date and you add a death date, does that count? And that's the idea is that we want to improve profiles that don't have dates, don't have either a birth or a death date. So if it already has a birth date, then just move on to another one, because the exception is if it has a marriage date but has no birth date or a death date. If you add one or both of those, then you can count that. But if it already has a birth or a death, if it already has one of those vital stats, then move on to a profile that doesn't have either of those, because we want to improve the health. And the other huge benefit is that by adding those dates and eventually locations, it will really help find duplicates.
Yes. Yeah. And we showed yesterday on the kickoff. Let me see if I still have it up. I guess I don't. But if you go to WikiTree Plus and you put in to the text search, let's go here. Let me upsize this so you guys can see it better. In the text search, if you do CC7 and then equals your profile ID, and then it was D0 and B0, which means both the death date and the birth date is blank. So this is within 7 degrees of my profile ID. That's going to give me profiles without dates. So there we go. So that's a fun way to maybe go about finding something to work on. You could put in the profile ID of maybe your favorite ancestor or maybe a notable profile. So just different ways to look at where you want to work.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So someone said that their YouTube video cut out as I was explaining why the profiles with one date missing counts. So what I had said was, if it's a marriage date but it has no birth or death, then you can add a birth or a death or both of them, and that counts. But if it already has a pre-existing birth date or has then just adding the death date, those aren't the ones that we want to count for this. We want to take profiles that have no birth or death date. Okay, so that's
and those reports, those WikiTree Plus suggestion reports are linked on the space page for WikiGames, so you can actually access a whole slew of profiles that have no dates all ready to go there for you.
Right. Yeah. And someone suggested that might be not exactly what the Friday date night does, that they may be looser in their definition. I'm not sure about that, but for this event, we want to get maximum benefit to the tree, to the WikiTree, right? So, and that is by improving profiles that have no dates at all, no birth or death dates, I should say.
Yeah,
now,
and we did make clear from the beginning that the birth and death date had to be blank. So
right.
that was made clear.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
Yeah.
The clarification was about the marriage date.
The marriage date, that was a one that it didn't occur. I hadn't double checked because the couple that I had spot checked didn't have marriage dates, so it never occurred to me that was going to be a question. So there's a question about privacy here, Azure. I'm wondering if you know the answer to this. Got some red privacy profiles without birth or death dates that I plan to work on. If I'm able to find a death date and I open up the profile, will tracking that count?
I think so. I'm not sure. That's more of an Alesh question, I think.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I'd say try it. It seems to me that if you've changed the privacy so it's open, you add the death date, and then as you save it, you go to the challenge tracker, it should count the point.
Mm-hmm.
Then if you, now is the assumption that you go back and make it red right after you've done that?
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
Yeah, and that would probably work. I'm not sure though. That would be a question for Alesh.
I think someone else, there was some talk in one of the Discord channels last night about the same sort of thing about if you have a date or you have a profile you worked on, and then you have to add that template for WikiTree admin, like if it's a living person.
Yeah.
I think someone suggested, well, if you add the date and save it and go to the challenge, count the point in the challenge tracker and then add the template for WikiTree admin after.
Well, it's not adding the category that does that. It's adding the date and marking them as still living. That makes it so that it's a living profile, and that you're not able to get to the challenge tracker. So what they're saying is, if you have a date that you can add,
right,
go up and do the point first.
Do the point first,
and then go in and add the information, the source and the date, and then it'll be there. Okay. And then that's when you would add that category, when you add in that information. I'm just going to type in here, just a second. WikiTree admin is the category.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what that looks like.
Ah, right.
So you add that to a profile if you have a suspicion that this person might still be living. We want to, of course, make sure that those are treated correctly for privacy. So,
right.
All right.
Okay. Any other questions? Anne is using this variation.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
And someone else, Kay, was suggesting that in those 4 prefab reports we have there, she likes the ones that have relatives, dates on relatives, because that does make it easier, because then at least you have a sense of what time frame you're looking for. As opposed to shooting in the dark.
Like those ones we opened up at the kickoff last night was like,
there was no clue.
No dates on any of the relatives. So it was just right. Like, where are we? When are we?
We're lost in space. That's right. Yeah.
All right.
And you talked about the estimated dates already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, I think that's it. I think everybody could get busy and get to work. Crack that whip.
And we'll see you in 6 hours for partway through. How you doing?
Yeah.
LiveCasts. Okay. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.
We'll see ya. Bye. Now I have to find the outro video.